Hi, I'm Mary Stover. In the summer of 2012, I studied abroad as part of my master's program in communication and leadership at Gonzaga. So I went to Italy. I booked a ticket from Spokane to Pisa, and I was going to go from Pisa to Rome on the train and then spend a week in Rome before meeting my classmates in Florence at the end of the week. I was so excited. I got to the airport ready to leave, and they told me my flight had been canceled because of mechanical problems. They told me to come back again that night, and then I could go through another city and still make it to Pisa the next day. They said, be here by 5 o'clock, So I get there at 5 o'clock, and the ticket counter is closed. They're like, oh, people have been waiting for that flight for hours. We can't let you back. I'm like, great. So I call the 800 number, and again, they tell me, be there tomorrow. We'll send you out on the plane. All this time, they've had my bags, on planes that I wasn't on and I didn't leave with. So the next morning, I go to fly out and I leave, and it's great. They send me directly to Rome, bypassing Pisa. They said, listen, because we ruined your night in Pisa, we're going to put you up in Rome. So when you get there, check in, we'll get you a hotel voucher. I was like, great. I get there and I don't have any luggage. And they said, okay, we're going to put you up in this hotel. There's a food voucher. You're good to go. We'll make sure your bags are delivered to your Airbnb tomorrow. So I go to my hotel. I had this amazing plate of pasta, and then I got massive food poisoning. So I was sick all night, and then the next morning I made my way towards my Airbnb. My Airbnb hostess was a lovely woman. She's from Guatemala. She'd been in Rome for 20 years, so she spoke fluent Italian and fluent Spanish. My Spanish was pretty good. My Italian was better at the time. And of course, I speak fluent English. So we kept speaking in 3 different languages, and only one time had to sit at the computer to get help from Google Translate. So she was trying to show me how to go to an open air market and buy clothes since my luggage hadn't shown up. And she was trying to tell me that linen breathes better in the heat, which I'm a big fan of, so I got it. So I bought a tank style linen tunic dress because of the heat, and a pair of really easy flowy trousers. So every night I would wash them, dry them, because it was so hot it would dry almost immediately. And then I would take off again in the next morning. On the 3rd day that I was in Rome, I was planning to go to the Vatican. So I had downloaded a bunch of podcasts from Rick Steves. And he would be the tour guide through the Vatican. I wouldn't have to pay to be a part of a tour group or pay a guide to get me through. So I'm listening to him on the how to get ready for your trip thing. And he's saying, if you're a lady, make sure your shoulders are covered. And I was like, crap, I don't have a scarf or anything. So I found another open air market, and I was trying to find a scarf to wear. They had some sweaters, but it was so hot, I couldn't wear a cardigan. So I found a really beautiful aqua pair of trousers, and I fashioned them in a sort of wrap around my shoulders, praying that no one would notice that I was wearing 2 pairs of trousers, one up top, one below. And so I very proudly made my way towards the Vatican Museum, and I went inside. Now, Rick Steves had said, buy your ticket and just go in and let the podcast walk you through. He also very clearly said, if you hear an American accent as a tour guide, don't go on a tour with that person because they will get you in, but they won't give you the best information. So I thought, well, I'm just going to go. I was listening to the security guard give someone else information, and I thought he was saying that the Sistine Chapel was closing early. So I was like, oh no, you have to basically go through the whole museum to get to the chapel. So I rushed through the whole thing, and then I found out, no. St. Peter's Basilica, the Duomo, the top of it was closing early. Anyway, so I thought, well, I got to make it to the Sistine Chapel to have one moment of peace in there before I leave. Well, the only person who gets any peace and quiet in the Sistine Chapel is the Pope, because there's so many people in there, trying to sneakishly take photos when the security guards are just screaming, no photo, the whole time you're in there. So I may or may not have taken a photo, and I went back to the beginning of the Vatican Museum. And I made my way through what I think is called the Gallery of Tapestries. Just beautiful, ornate tapestries on the wall. And I think the series that I'm talking about is by Raphael, and it was a series of the life of Christ. And I'm looking at them, and they're so beautiful and intricately woven. And I hear this American accent guiding a tour, and I was like, no way. So I unplug my earphone, and I hear this American voice say, now, if you look really closely at Jesus's hands, you can tell he was just crucifixicated. Crucifixicated, that's not a word. So I thought, oh, no, no, no. I'm just immediately responding like this, and the people in the tour guide are like, what? Like, never mind. It's not a word. Anyway, so I kind of went at the same speed. I was tour adjacent for some part of the time. And then we sort of broke off and went on our different ways. But when we made it back to St. Peter's Basilica, they were in there right in front of me. A couple of people then kind of made their way behind me, and I was like, oh, I'm surrounded by these Americans. I'm an American, it's cool. But this woman behind me, she puts her hand on her chest and she has this great big sigh. Oh, can you believe this is where Jesus is buried? She says. I turned around and I said, no, don't you remember from that last tapestry where he was resurrected? And the tour guide snaps this look at me like I stole her word. I didn't. It's not a word. As I made my way back to my Airbnb that night, my bags arrived. My Airbnb hostess said in 3 languages, congratulations, your bags are here. And we celebrated with a beautiful bottle of her homemade limoncello and a cold bottle of Prosecco. And that was the beginning of my trip to Italy.